Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today doing my spoiler review for Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm also going to make my case for why we should reboot it. I know they're not going to, but it's just my case. So yeah, we made it. We did it. You have seen the thing. Or if you haven't seen it, then you should stop listening. Or don't, whatever your preference is. But we are going to talk the spoilers. There's a lot to dig into, and so we've had a year of anticipation and speculation, theories, rumors, leaks, and finally, after all the hype buildup, after everything that we went through over the last year, we finally got to see it. And so there's a lot of people talking about rankings. I'm going to start right off and tell you I really enjoyed this movie. However, I am not a fan at all of the other two MCU or Home movies. Homecoming I thought was okay, and I really didn't like Far From Home. I saw it twice in theaters, haven't seen it since. The first time I fell asleep halfway through and woke up at the end, and so I had to go see it a second time, and I did not enjoy it at all. And I'll get to a lot of this later, but a big part of that is the MCU really hamstringing what a Spider-Man story in a movie could be, and I think that's where this movie excels. So, but I don't think it's better than any of the Raimi Spider-Man movies. And yes, I said all three. I like the third one, so there's that. All right, let's get into it. So I wanted to, first of all, I tried to do this a couple times last night, but I was just way too tired. And I think the best way to do this is to just go chronologically through the movie and tell you my feelings. So we start off, and I'm gonna be honest, the whole opening, we pick up right from Far From Home, and everybody finds out that it's Peter. I think the whole opening was just a little silly to me, because the whole Peter is in trouble and public enemy number one was silly, because it didn't serve it. It just went away. And Charlie Cox, yes, he was there as Matt Murdock. Everybody, was speculating and all that, blah, blah, blah. But it served no purpose. And I remember the first time I was like, wait, that made no sense. He showed up to tell them that they should get a lawyer, and he is a lawyer. He said he's a good lawyer. I don't understand what happened to the legal troubles. And then the second time I watched, I was like, oh, okay, he just said, hey, all that legal stuff or all those charges, they're not going to stick. I'm like, well, okay, that was useless. Well, what was the point? And so obviously him being in the public eye and people knowing his identity, that plays into the rest of the movie. But I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I don't understand what purpose it served. Maybe to get a few jokes out of Ned in the interrogation thing, but it was just, yeah, I was just like really whatever about that. And then we go into this whole college admissions thing. And first, let me just say the obvious. And we don't know what's up with Nick Fury. Also, how did they know Nick Fury was off-world? I don't know. Like I said, we don't know. We assumed that the Skrulls were impersonating Nick Fury and all that in conjunction with Fury. We don't know that for certain. So I will say that. But it seems like for some reason this government agency knew Nick Fury's in space, but Peter and them didn't. I don't know. And then on top of that, the obvious, people were saying you could just have a Skrull show up. Shoot, you could do almost anything. They got facial technology that Agent Carter, Sharon Carter used. They got all types of stuff that you could use to just fabricate, hey, Peter Parker's there, Spider-Man swinging, that old trope. And they didn't do it. So, whatever. We'll buy into it to let the movie go. So then we get into this whole admissions thing, and I will give the movie credit. It points fun, and it really harps on Peter about being a kid and about just being dumb about it. But at the same time, I still don't know that I forgive it for doing that, because you had Doctor Strange perform something that could be world breaking just because you couldn't get into, it wasn't just because he couldn't get into college, but like because y'all didn't get admitted, like, and you didn't call that. And again, they poke fun at it, and it definitely resonated with me as somebody that works with students. Some people might say that's a little over the top. No, it's not. They don't think. These students don't think, especially when it comes to that stuff. They're just like, oh, I didn't know I can call. Like, I don't make phone calls. How do I do that? How do I talk to an adult? So I get that part. I get all of it. But then even Doctor Strange himself, I just like, why? So the trailer, which was edited to pieces, they gave us this sense that I didn't really like, and most people didn't like, that Doctor Strange was just being reckless. Like, what are you talking about? Now, they misdirected us hard because, and I appreciate in the movie, they actually didn't go that route where Wong is like, no, don't do it. That spell's too dangerous. Don't do it. And then Doctor Strange's like, I'm going to do it anyway. Wong's away. Like, I'm glad it wasn't that. It was much more realistic, where it was just like, hey, this kid's been through a lot. Come on. Then Wong's like, look, whatever, just leave me out of it. So, okay, I could flow with that. But still, it feels weird to wipe the mind of everybody in the world just for like this whole little purpose. And so, I don't know, that it still doesn't sit with me well, doesn't really make a ton of sense, especially when you're coming off, and this is one of my critiques of the MCU in general. You coming off the blip, and it's just, there's not enough ramification in these movies and shows. It really isn't. It really is like a lot of people just went on with their life, and I refuse to believe that makes sense narratively. And part of that is this: it's like, if we assuming that Ned and everybody got dusted too. 5 years. All those people you went to school with are graduating college. Like, and y'all are just so big into going to MIT and worried about college, and you're going to go to Boston and be Spiderman. I don't know. It felt like a weird, like, plot device to stick to and to drive the story forward, but whatever. So again, they addressed it, so I appreciate that. So Peter messes the spell up, and again, he's being annoying, and I just feel like he's not that, and that was a little out of character. Like, yes, he wants things, but it's like, bro, you can clearly see that you are dealing with something pretty big. Also, why not stop the spell or actually discuss these things before you start the spell? I don't know. Anyway, so that happens. And then Peter's trying to talk to the missions lady to get Ned and them in. Okay, whatever. Then Doc Ock shows up. We've largely seen that. Actually, I think they released that full fight, so we've largely seen that, and it was cool. It was cool. Like, I've already saw it. I mean, I feel like most people have, but people were going a little crazy. My first theater experience, though, was like, 3:00 Thursday. So these were the real, true fans. They were going crazy about everything. But, I'm like, we've seen this. Okay, it's cool. I enjoy it. And then we know how that plays out. And then Doctor Strange, which I don't understand this either. He brings, Peter and Doc Ock to the crypt or whatever he called it. I don't know why he just didn't do that same thing to Green Goblin. He was right there. But anyway, so they get there, and he's already caught the lizard, and then they got Doc Ock. And I'm just like, okay, they just off screen, he caught the lizard, he's bloody. I don't know. That just feels a little weird. Feel like we could have saw that, but all right. And eventually they get this rogue gallery. That's one thing that I love. Like, I was sitting there thinking both times I saw, I was like, this is like a literal rogue gallery. The closest you get is Batman strolling through Arkham, which we love that. But that's what it is. It's a rogue gallery. That's what it was. And I enjoy that because Spider-Man has a great rogue gallery. But the spell brings in people that know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And that makes it a little problematic. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to just tell you it's a spoiler anyway. I was going to bring that up with Venom in the end credit scene because he doesn't know Peter Parker Spider-Man, so that didn't make sense. Now I think about it, Electro didn't either. Electro said he didn't know that Peter Parker was. He said, I know you was a kid. I thought you was black. So why did Electro get pulled in too? Okay, so now you see where some of the issues are. But anyway, I think Alfred Molina, this is the problem. You get Alfred Molina, they got some jokes or whatever. But y'all remember that one scene or that one moment when they was asking a question, he turns around and yells, "We tired of your questions, boy." It was so intense. And you got, Defoe, you got Molina, you got Jamie Foxx. These are people who have powerhouse performances before in their career, so they can act. You can take it there if you want. You could make this deeply emotional and for real. And they do sometimes, and they make it really goofy sometimes. And I'll get through that. You'll see other times where that conflicts so hard for me. I think there's ways to make the movie a blend of the two. When you get the right proportions of your ingredients and it blends well. To me, they went extreme. It was extremely goofy funny or it was extremely over-the-top emotional and kind of dark. And I'm just like, okay, well, which lane are we in? And I just don't feel like it ever weaved well. Because Spider-Man Peter, Tom's Peter, he goes to get Electro, or actually he was going to get Green Goblin. But then they see Electro. And I don't know. I don't care about the black suit. Never mind. It looked kind of cool, though. But I was just like, he got all those wires in there. So that's on his body all the time. But anyway. So he goes to get Electro. And they bring Sandman in to help him, which I love. Because a lot of people were like, how are they going to work this with Sandman? Because when we last seen him, he had his arc. He made his revelation and everything. And so it was like when in the commercial or the trailers, we see him as the adversary. We're like, how does that happen? And so I was relieved that he was helping Spider-Man. Then I was like, wait, but how does this work? And so obviously he's like, you're not my Spider-Man. I don't trust you. I'm going to fight you. What? To me, again, another convenience thing where it was just like, you would think he'd be a lot more rational than that. Like, this is the version that understood, like, what happened. And so he just like, you're not my Spider-Man, but Spider-Man, you trust Spider-Man. You should know that, I wouldn't say know that he's a good guy, but he's coming there for a reason. And you saw, like, you interacted with him. He's not here just trying to kill you. He didn't attack you. So anyway, that was weird to me. I didn't really enjoy that. But they get Electro and Sandman. They get them back. So now you got a road gallery. And I enjoyed this, to be honest. I think some people, actually, they didn't get to this part till Goblin got there. But I enjoyed the interaction of the road gallery. The jokes, Jamie Foxx was firing them off. I enjoyed him. I've heard some people say they didn't like it, but I enjoyed it. I thought he was hilarious. But I also like when they come to the realization of what happened. And I think we get that a lot more in this movie than I was expecting is the interaction. And when you think about it, especially on the villain side, we don't get that a lot. Like it usually is like, here's the plan, let's attack, or I don't need you, I'm on my own thing, why are you here? Like, whatever. It's just always kind of isolated. But this, they're talking about their fates and what happened to them. They realize they died fighting Spider-Man. They even talking about how they was beating Spider-Man. Then later on, you have Jamie Foxx talking with the Sandman about how they turned into what they are. Gotta be careful where you fall. So it was good. I love the interaction, especially when Norman came in and all that. But that was cool. Norman, I'll circle back to that because I enjoyed Norman when he was like, "Hey, I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. Somebody's in my house. I don't know where my son's at. I enjoyed that. His turn, I don't know. We'll get to that. So they gather all these people up. And again, it's like the spell brought these people in. And I enjoy this part. Because this is what made the entire movie. This was the most Spider-Man movie of the 3 MCU. And honestly, one of the most Spider-Man movie. Because, and I get it, if you're a big comic fan, different versions, all that stuff. What I'm coming from is the Spider-Man I grew up mainly through TV. The old cartoon, the 90s cartoon, some comics, and obviously the Sam Raimi movies. Spider-Man was, to me, always the one that had to make the tough choices. Especially in the 90s cartoon, it's episode after episode of him having to make tough choices. And it's never easy. It's almost like the Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events. Like, it never is going to be good. It just gets a little better sometimes. And so you get to this point with the Spider-Man character where he's always having to choose. And you get a little bit of that at Homecoming where it's like, do I go to the dance? Do I go talk to this girl I like? Do I go take these pictures? Do I go to this event? Do I miss my date with Aunt May? What, it's always these choices. And I don't feel like we got enough of that with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But in this movie, you go back to that core and you give him the most difficult choice. These people don't like you. They know you're not the Spider-Man, but they don't like you. And I don't really know if they was going. They maybe try to kill him just because they knew he was a threat. But they don't like Spider-Man. They don't like what you represent. And so letting them loose, you can't do that, and you don't know the ramifications of the multiverse. But sending them back, hey, let's get rid of the spell, reverse it, boom, we're done. That could that sends them to a certain death. They're going to die. And Norman was the perfect linchpin because everybody else wasn't that sympathetic. And then you get Norman, who is battling the split personality, and we didn't get a whole lot with him and May, or May and Peter, but we got enough for him we know he's trusting of Peter. And Aunt May says that he trusts you. And he's like, Peter, no, what's going on? And so that really gives you the emotional pin where everybody's looking around like we're about to go die. And so that creates this decision where Spider-Man has to say, do I do it the easy way and just have this mess cleaned up? Or do I do it the hard way and not only help people, but help people who hate me? And that makes this the most Spider-Man movie ever. Absolutely, not ever, but that makes this the most Spider-Man of the 3. So that's great. Excellent. Then we get the fight scene with Doctor Strange, which was cool. And as somebody mentioned that when Peter was out of his body was doing that because of his spider sense, and you could see like the lines above his head. I didn't notice that the 2 times I watched it, but my guess was that it was the spider sense. So anyway, so then they had a fight, whatever. And he comes back, he traps Doctor Strange, which I like and I don't know. Because I don't know enough about math, and obviously I don't know enough about the mirror dimension to say what he did made sense. But, okay, Spider-Man wins. Goes back, and I like the way they did it, though, because it completely makes sense why Doctor Strange is out of the movie for most of it. He took his sling ring, left him in the mirror dimension, all that stuff. So, although I feel like maybe he could have got out of that. So, anyway, Doctor Strange is gone. And then Peter is just like, okay, we're going to help you. Basically, we're going to fix you, which I don't know if I like the way he said that to them. I probably would have been a little upset myself. But either way, my thing when I was watching it, I was just like, the first time I was like, well, as it was happening, I was just like, this don't make sense. Why'd you just let them free and expect that they were going to do anything, that you told them to? But you go through the movie, and then the second time I realized it was just like, okay, well, the box is what they want. If they do anything to Peter, she'll just hit the thing and they'll disappear. So separating the box from them was smart, even though they sat there in front of everybody and told them what the box was. Like, MJ, you take it and go here. Like, I ain't like that, but it was a good plan, so it makes sense. So it's like, okay, well, we can't kill Peter, we can't do anything because we're gonna get sent back. So we gotta listen. And then Doc Ock, who probably wouldn't listen, was the one wrapped up. Even though I don't know if I would trust Goblin, but he didn't know how bad Goblin was. So they get to Happy's, and you get the other part that is very Peter Parker, which is the science. And I think that was pretty cool, him working with Osborn and everything. The whole little section was cool. I don't know why Aunt May was there, to be honest. I probably would have been like, yeah, don't come here when I have a group full of multiverse villains. But either way, you get the science where he's working. I like that whole little scene. Like I said, you get the interaction with some of the villains and everything and all that. The one thing I don't like is the turn of Green Goblin. Because unless you communicated to us that the Goblin was there pretending the whole time. Other than that, I don't know. It was just, again, too convenient of when to, do things. So Norman got the Goblin out of there for what? I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours, who knows? And then Goblin just popped back up at the right time. I don't know. It just, to me, it's just, how could you trust? Like, you had Doc Ock wrapped up the whole time until he got, fixed. But then you just letting the Goblin walk around free. And so, I don't know. But again, he turns, and I just feel like there was no rhyme or reason to it. Like, if you got it under control by something, okay. Or if something like happens, some provokes or memory or something that just makes him turn. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I know he said like, it gets to be just you or whatever, but still, I don't know. And then even with that, it ain't like he did much. Like, Peter got him before, but whatever. So that happens. And that scene was weird. That scene was weird. That was one of the ones when he had the spider sense. It was so long. It was just like, what is going on? It was just, I don't know. That to me, I don't know why they shot it that way. And so that kind of gets this whole speech, which I like this thing is gifts. Like, this isn't whatever. And really, that's just to Electro, because Sandman just wants to go home. He don't care. So he slides out of the spot. The Lizard wasn't even there. Electro, obviously, and I don't even know why he agreed in the first place, but Electro was just like, I want to go get my power, whatever. And then Goblin gets loose. And so the fight between Goblin and Peter was great. I don't know if it was great action. Most of this action movie was hard to see the way it was cut, but it was interesting because you didn't see Goblin really fight like that. Like, he was body slamming him through floors of the building. Like, it was crazy. Or he like power bombed him. But one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Peter, mounts Osborn's neck, and he's like punching him. And as he's punching him, he starts laughing. It was so just, it was good imagery. I love that. Yeah, but Goblin put the works on him. He put the works on Tom Holland, Spider-Man. And so then we get to the Aunt May thing. Absolutely weird scene. Another one that was shot very, very weird, because you did everything to build up to a tense moment. Where he's just like, oh, you get it from her. You try to fix me, I'm going to fix you. You can thank me later. There's always consequence, whatever. You build it up. I don't care if you use the glider to impale her to the wall, which may have been a little dark, or if the glider just knocks her onto some debris in like the I forgot, was that rebar? It, like, pierces her. Whatever, to just say she's dead. I don't understand how she died after seeing it twice. Like, she stood up, she looks for Peter, helps him up, stands there, talks to him, and like, you could tell she's acting weird, like, and so I'm like, okay, if she was dead, she'd be dead already. But the way she keeps continuing, I'm like, maybe she's just shell shocked. Like she said, she got knocked on the head, like she's just catching her breath. But then it gets very, obvious towards the end that she's about to die. And so she falls, she dies. Now the death was good. I don't know what they did, but it looked like the blood rushed out of Marissa Tomei's skin when she died. It was great. But everything before that was so weird. Like, she was talking to him. She forced out the great power comes great responsibility and didn't say it the way we used to it. But it was just like, what is happening? Why is this death so prolonged? And then one thing that got me the second time, he hugs her. Like, when she first helps him up, he hugs her. He feels her back. You can see her back. There's no hole. There's no nothing. Don't you think she would have felt that, or he would have felt something if she was pierced? And then he lays her down, and then he feels all the blood on her back. And I'm just like, what happened? They just shot that really weird. But obviously, an emotional scene, blah, blah, blah. So we leave that part, and then I'm pretty sure after Spider-Man dips, we go to Ned and MJ, and that's where it happens. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that well, let me back all the way up. I was presently surprised, because I predicted this, that they came so early in the movie. And part of me started to feel like, okay, because I actually couldn't tell by the suit. I'm not one of these people, because I barely watched The Amazing Spider. I watched them twice each, maybe. So I couldn't really tell if that was Toby or not. But then he takes off the mask and it's Andrew. So I started to think that they were going to like work with him, and then Toby was going to show up in like a heroic moment later. But once he said, find Peter Parker, then obviously you knew what was happening. But yeah, I said in my predictions, 90% chance they were going to be in it. We knew. Almost everything we've seen from the leaks was in that movie regarding them. And so, if you didn't know, you should have known, because it's been out there for over a year. But there's nothing. And I don't even necessarily like the big crowd moments, but there is nothing I've ever been to that hit like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire popping up. That the crowd both times. And the second time I went last night was very subdued. It was not the whatchamacall crowd from the first night. But that first night, they went nuts. And the second night, they clapped too. The dude next to me jumped out of his chair. It was crazy. So it was great. It was all fun. Now, I mean, we can scrunch all the Spider-Man parts together. It was weird. I'm not going to lie. It was great and it was weird. And this is what I said before. They went with the extremes. Because you go from them jumping down like, I lost my Gwen and I lost my Uncle Ben. It was my fault. And Andrew can act. Andrew can act. He brings it when he wants to bring the drama. And then they swing right from that, no pun intended, from being the drama right into just over the top goofiness in their interactions. Now, the nostalgia button was pushed. I absolutely love the fact that we were seeing these different Spider-Man interact in the generations. And the part that chokes me up, it choked me up both times, and then probably will choke me up forever, is the thought of them being brothers. And Andrew says that once, I always wanted to be brothers. The thought of, we are Spider-Men. And as much as I don't always love that, because I don't like the mantle passing, I hate that stuff. But for whatever reason, with Spider-Man, it works, and I'm okay with it. We are Spider-Man. no matter, from all these universes, we are Spider-Man. And the mentorship, because there's a small moment of Toby mentoring Andrew. Like, hang in there. It gets better. And then Andrew mentoring down to Tom. And, those three just being together, it was, it's so good. It's so good. But some of their interactions was weird. I mean, the pointing thing, that's funny. To me, the way this movie was, you might as well just went full out and did it. You just might as well did the full meme. But they did a version of the point that was funny. But some of the stuff was just, it was just weird, especially Andrew Garfield. And like him cracking Toby's back, like it was so random. It was very weird. And I don't even know it's necessarily a bad thing. I was just like, what is the tone we're trying to strike here? Because I don't know. The tones keep shifting. So they do all their things in the Spider-Man, group, and they conveniently make all these cures, which whatever. And then they get to the end where they go to the fight, and I don't know. Watching it the second time, it didn't bother me as much, but the first time, I was really like, that fight was underwhelming. Because if you really think about it, Electro didn't do anything the whole movie but float there and shoot electric blast. Like, the man could pretty much teleport. He can become intangible. He can shoot lightning. Like, we've seen lightning characters. There's a lot you can do with that. He just floated there as a floating target and shot at stuff. So I was like, okay, whatever. Sandman, I mean, he didn't do much either. Lizard definitely didn't do much. It was just kind of, whatever. But they slowly started to cure them. And those were powerful moments. Those were powerful moments because what you essentially get is a domino effect of catharsis. Because it's not just, you being relieved and feeling released from this movie and the tension in this movie. You feel the release from the tension of the other movies that some of us grew up with. And so to think about what we seen in the first Spider-Man and all these years later to see Harry or Norman, not redeemed, but just saved. And to see the tragic death of Otto and to see him saved and to see Flint finally be able to go back to his daughter, hopefully if he don't go to jail, and then Connors. I love the cured moments. Those were good moments. And then you get the final fight with, what's his face? Green Goblin. And the only thing I'll say about that is Peter didn't seem to be able to do much damage to him earlier. So I don't know why he was able to whoop him this time, but whatever. So the fight was cool. I thought it was weird to do the whole stabbed in the back thing. I do like Toby staring down Tom. Although part of me wishes it was Tom's decision not to kill him, rather than somebody having to stop him. But that is kind of the hero thing. You got to be able to walk the line, and he is young. This is effectively an origin story. And so you get Toby stopping him, and then get stabbed in the back. I thought it was kind of weird to do that if he wasn't going to die. What was the point? Literally think about it. What was the point? Because after that, he's cracking jokes. And, I'm stabbed. I've been stabbed before, but, we're going to go back and I'm going to be fine. What was the point of stabbing him? I definitely thought they were going to kill one of Spider-Man. I didn't believe as much as we got towards the end of the movie, but I came into the movie thinking they were going to kill one of them. And so I was like, man, okay, Toby's going to die. He's done. But then they were just like, oh, no, I've been stabbed before. I'm fine. Okay, what was the point? What was the point there? But that fight, it was okay. It was okay. So then the spell, I don't know that it makes sense. So because originally he said do the spell the original way, which was for everybody to forget Peter Parker is Spider-Man, not for everybody to forget Peter Parker. And so either way, let's say you change the spell to everybody forgets Peter Parker. So you are able to do that across the whole multiverse And that nullifies the other spell of people who know. I don't know. Because even when I think about it now, it was like, okay, people forget that Peter is Spider-Man. Not people that know I don't know. I guess you could just make it up and say, well, the spell wasn't right, so instead of erasing people, start pulling them in. Okay, I guess. So if you make a spell where people forget that he's Peter Parker, so I guess that just nullifies the other spell? I don't know. Whatever. And you got a spell strong enough to make the whole multiverse forget that he's Spider-Man, but you couldn't stop the other. You're not powerful enough to stop the other spell. I don't know. So either way, that was their resolution, which obviously it was a thing where you had to, as Spider-Man, make a tough decision. And you had to make the really tough decision, which you probably could say is easy at that point. Like, let the world get broken or lose everything that you love and know. And he had to lose everything. And also, side note, the second time I was really able to pay attention to like the people breaking through, you saw two distinct things. You saw Kraven the Hunter, and you saw Rhino as an actual, from like the comics. And so that was kind of cool. But anyway, so that fixes everything. Everybody forgets he's Spider-Man. I guess I don't think he's going to leave Ned and MJ alone, but for now he did. But I love that he's in the struggle. And I'll definitely say I wasn't the one that kind of said this, even though I thought it. But this Spider-Man's been privileged, and that I'll get into with the whole reboot conversation. He's been privileged so far. And he really hasn't had to go through strife and tough decision making like the other Spider-Man had to do in their own movie. And a lot of that is because Marvel. So at the end of this, you basically hit the reset button. Like I said, effectively an origin story. He's in that tiny apartment. He's no longer in high school. He's got to get a GED. He's got to make up. I don't know how you make up a life. Honestly, I guess maybe you could say you came from somewhere else. I don't know. But you speak perfect English. I don't know. Hey, he should start talking with his natural British accent and just say that it's a ruse. But anyway, so he has to get a GED. He's got the small apartment. Obviously, he's going to have to get a job, which is funny. Well, I wouldn't say funny because it is Spider-Man. You're going to have J. Jonah working with the person that he hates the most but doesn't know it. So he's going to have to get a job, even though there's been no hint of him doing photography. So he's going to have to get his GED, get back into college, and he's going to have to live that New York slum life, and I love it. That is Spider-Man at this point. Not say he can't grow into something else, but that is Spider-Man, not an Iron Man suit, not heads up display, not all this other stuff. He's got a phone with a radio app, and he's got a homemade suit. Now, I don't really understand why he couldn't keep his other suits, but still, I love that he got rid of those. Like, this is Sony rebranding it. And, whatever people want to believe, obviously he didn't leave the MCU. So I'm curious. I still think the Multiverse of Madness might have something to say about that, but so he didn't leave that. Venom left that. We never saw Morbius. Morbius has a Spider-Man in his universe, which we understand why, because Andrew. Well, no, wasn't that Toby's? I don't remember. But one of the Spider-Man, they exist in another universe, whatever. Wait, actually, no, because Venom doesn't know Peter Parker or Spider-Man. Anyway, so I don't know. But anyway, they go back, and he's still there. So he's still in the MCU. It seems like, and Amy did say that Marvel, they're going to work on this next one. She didn't say anything after that. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen with everything. But they have completely set up a way to cut ties with the MCU. 100% if they wanted to. So there's that. And yeah, that was the movie. So, like I said, it was parts that I enjoyed. Like I said, my initial review is the same. The highs were very high. Like the nostalgia, obviously seeing them together, the generations of Spider-Man, all that. It was great. It was absolutely amazing. Even some of the stuff I thought was really weird, just being able to see this interaction like was enough to just bring a tear to my eye. But then a lot of the lows were very low to me. A lot of the conveniences and the story were just trash writing, to be honest. And I don't think it was really shot all that well. The action, I don't think was shot well, but it was still a good ride. So like I said, I enjoy it. It's my favorite of the three. It is one of the most Spider-Man movies, but definitely has its issues. And then I already talked about the Venom thing. It didn't make sense to me. Why'd you bring him in? You obviously brought him in just to drop off the symbiote. And I don't get why first of all, why was part of the symbiote just oozing out of him? And why didn't that disappear with him? Secondly, he don't know Peter Parker. Why was he pulled into this universe? That makes sense. So, whatever. That's setting up the future. Then we get the Doctor Strange thing. I'm just waiting for them to release that trailer because it was so fast. I don't know what was happening. I can't even really give you a lot of opinions on it. But I do enjoy the fact that Wanda seems to be just, partnering up. She's not an adversary because I didn't really want to see Strange fight her. But, yeah. The only thing I'll say is I'm not 100% convinced that is the Doctor Strange from What If, because the one in What If helped them at the end of the day. And so, I don't know. We will see, but it seemed like he arced because he had to live who knows how long in the empty universe and realized his mistake. So I don't know that that's him. So we'll see. But I'm waiting for them to release that trailer officially. So I think part of the review, you kind of got some of the reasons I'm talking about a reboot. And I'm going to just say overall, not only the handicap of the MCU, where Spider-Man was very much an Iron Man Jr., the stuff he got, not just the stuff he got from Iron Man is whatever. The thing that blew me in Homecoming that I cannot forgive is that all these villains were mad at Stark. So they're not even Spider-Man villains. They're Tony Stark villains. It all revolves around Tony Stark. I'm like, are you serious? And so things like that have just made it not what it could be, I feel like. And so there's that part. And also saying that is the essence of Spider-Man is not just him struggling, making tough choices, growing up through the struggle. The other essence of Spider-Man is that his world, it all comes because of him. Not because of him, but it all happens within his world. It's all connected. Again, at least as far as the 90s cartoon, which is my favorite, that's the big one. So I know there's other comics. I know there's other iterations. But for me, watching, and I recently rewatched the 90s cartoon, so it still holds up. I love it as an adult. I love it because the story is so interconnected. You get the eugenics thing, and that kicks it all off. You have Peter Parker, who you could say is a freshman in college, you could say is a high school student visiting this future college, whatever you want to call it. He could be doing an internship, whatever. You start off with this Peter in the classic structure, and I don't want to hear this crap about we don't want to see Uncle Ben die. Uncle Ben can die. Martha and Thomas Wayne, they could die over and over again. Whatever. Like, I don't know why people complain about that. So, you start with this Peter. You could, whatever, post Uncle Ben, whatever. And he's with Dr. Connors, who has taken a liking to him. He's taken a liking to this Peter. This young, brilliant mind. And Peter helps him make some leaps with the eugenics project, whatever. Eventually, Peter is studying, or he in the wrong place at the wrong time. The spider gets in the way, and the spider with this eugenics, whatever DNA, transfers it to Spider or to Peter. Peter gets knocked out for a while. He wakes up, has these powers. He's learning. He's growing. Meanwhile, without Peter there, Dr. Connors he starts pushing the boundaries. He has nobody to rein him in. Eventually, you could do it that way or you could wait, but eventually that gets him into becoming a lizard and experimenting with reptiles and being able to regenerate. And I'm not saying this is all one movie, but then you got Dr. Otto Octavius. Again, Connors introduces him. I hear great things about you. Whatever. He's jumping in on the eugenics thing. He has an accident that is caused with maybe Spider-Man around, whatever. Or even maybe if Spider-Man's not there. He has an accident. He becomes Doc Ock. Again, the eugenics thing that fuses to his spine, whatever. Spider-Man starting to fight crime. He's messing up the Kingpin's money, or whoever, you big villain. He's messing up the crime syndicate. And I like Kingpin because what happens with Kingpin is he has a relationship with Norman that makes Norman a reluctant villain. Like, he's doing some dirty things to keep his power in the company, but he's not a villain. But Kingpin pushes him to figure things out. So Norman is bankrolling all this technology they create to try to get Spider-Man. And eventually they get the Predator of the Spider, the Scorpion. They trick this dude, make him the Scorpion through the eugenics power again. And again, like the whole thing, Morbius, just almost everybody is through this eugenics research, and it grounds everything in science, which is Peter's wheelhouse. It has everybody kind of being interconnected, and it just, I don't know, it makes it more organic, and it makes it feel more like Spider-Man rather than, oh, Spider-Man was introduced with the Avengers conflict and everything about him is about the Avengers and Tony Stark. I don't like that. For whatever you want to say about the other Spider-Man movies, they were Spider-Man movies. They were about Peter Parker. And not to say that he can't cross over and stuff, but that was his intro. Like I said, this was pretty much an origin story right now. His intro was a crossover and into the Avengers. And we didn't really get to see Peter become Spider-Man. Now, I would like to see a veteran Spider-Man, like maybe an Andrew Garfield, who has had years as Spider-Man before he has any real teaming up. Not to say, because the cartoon did it well as well, not to say he can't come across the X-Man or he can't come across, certain people. The Punisher comes in because Spider-Man was being labeled something, and Punisher comes in. Morbius brings in Blade. Like, there's ways to do that, but he still has to start off as his own person. And so I think a reboot, and especially with a universe, it could be so rich. It could be so rich. Like, I don't care. You could bring Eddie Brock, or you could bring them back, or you could recast. But just imagine, again, they won't do it, but imagine if they say, hey, we're bringing these people back, but we're gonna restart the slate. And we just started off with Peter in the eugenics project and how that turned on to Spider-Man and dominoed and turned all these people into his rogue gallery and all these other things. And everything is just this rich world of Spider-Man that Sony gets to have to themselves. And eventually you get to Miles Morales and the Spider-Verse. It would be great. It would be great, and it would serve the character better, but they won't do it. So anyway, so all that, I have to give this movie, I would probably say like a 83%, like a B minus, right below a B. Some more tighter writing or consistent tones or better action, any of those would probably get this to a B, but it's missing those parts. But I'm gonna give it a B minus. So that's it for me. A long spoiler review. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.